UCKG, the new church we're going to be talking about in this country that is again operating like a cult that most people probably have not heard about. And once again, it just so happens I have been there. And it's important for us to address this because they're actually a church that is exposing, as there's over 40 of them actually in London. They are also targeting young people, and we're following this on from talking about SPAC Nation and as part of this whole series about how all religions are evil, because I want to show you guys, once again, we're looking at a completely different kind of church, right? And we're seeing how the devil does the same damn thing in a different font. Today, we're talking about UCKG. And in the previous video, I did a video about a girl who was affiliated with this church who died in 2003. Her name is Victoria. She was only 8 years old, and she'd been abused by her auntie and her boyfriend after her parents had sent her from the Ivory Coast to this country. She went to live with them. They were telling her she's a witch. They abused her. I did a whole video on it. It's the video before this one in the series, before this one in the series. So go and check that out in order to go and figure that whole story, explain it in detail. Her story is a big deal because her death is what led to the change in the child laws in this country, child protection laws. So it's a big story. And this is all the way back in 2003 that she died. So I would have only been 6 years old. Well, at that time, they had taken her to this church, UCKG, the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God. And twice they'd been there. They could see this girl was dying. The pastor from that church was even named on the court documents, that then led to such changes in the law, which changed the history for children in this country altogether, right? But the church didn't do nothing. They saw the kid was dying. They ain't do nothing. And that's because they're guilty, which is what we're going to be talking about, the church itself and how it is. I'm going to be telling you guys about somebody who went there for 8 years, a woman called Rachel, who has a charity. It's called, sorry, I've got my notes here. I don't want to butcher anybody's anything here. The Survival Universal UK, where she basically supports people who have been victims of church cults in this country. She was in that church from when she was 13 until she was 21. She's now 10 years away. She offers all these services. We're going to get into all of that. I also went to the church, as I said, and I went to a couple of the actual services, not just one of their main services. I also went to their youth service. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of a background about the church first, a bit of story about her story, and I'm also going to include my experience because once again, and I want you guys to understand something because there's so many things we're going to be able to see here. You're going to be able to see all these things I've been saying to you guys for years, that it's not about, with the devil, it's not even about the division. Our divisions, they're a distraction. You're going to see that in this church that's associated again with taking advantage of kids from the hood, right? Particularly in the Black community, is doing the exact same things as the white people in Utah and the Mormons. It's all the same text, different font. So buckle up and stay tuned. I'm going to try and keep this all in this one video because there's so much to cover, you guys. This is why I know that we have to trust God, because I'm overwhelmed trying to keep up with how much stuff I'm learning. It's so hard to try and tell you guys in a concise way because there's so much there. There's just so much there. I will die and I'll scratch the surface, I feel like, knowing how much of this is actually going on, but hopefully we can learn some things. So buckle up and stay tuned. Like I said, if you're from outside the country, I'm going to be giving a lot of context because I also used to live right by this church that I'm talking about. It's about 20-minute walking distance from my house. And I went to the one that's in North London because I used to live in North London, and then a bit more towards the northeast. The church this lady, Rachel, is from, who runs this charity that's been running. She is from the south of London, and so I'm going to go into a bit of her story. So yeah, and it's insane because, again, special shout out to Bouncer, who is speaking up on this, using his platform. And again, like I said, I mentioned him. He's the one who brought up SPAC Nation, and he's on their necks. He's on all these churches' necks, or all these people taking advantage, because he's like, he hates people taking advantage of young women and just young people, but especially young women. And so he's making a big deal about all of this stuff. So I'm going to throw my voice out there as well. I don't have as big of a platform as his, but I do have experience I should share, and this is a part of what we're talking about. So let's get into it. So UCKG, I'll start with you guys with my experience, okay? Because my experience was just the surface level, right? And what she experienced goes even deeper. So I'll start with my experience. So as I've told you guys many times, when I was living in London, you guys know me, as I say, curiosity kills the cat, but the cat can't die because Jesus died for me, so that death has no power over me. So I'd be curious, right? So when I would be having like a bad day or a bad mental health day or whatever, what I would do kind of in ignorance, is I would find any random church I've never visited in London, and I'll just go there, and I'll go sit in the back, because I'd be like, let me just go and sit in the presence of where God is. Right now I don't have it in me. This is what I used to do. So I would randomly just go to all these churches. This is how I've been to so many of these churches in London as well. Can I just say, I was thinking about this earlier, like having been in different continents, like the fact that I've been in different continents in all over the world, all over the show, you know what I mean? My family was a part of the Assemblies of God in the United States. The leader of that church was also found out to be a predator, mind you. I went to the churches in Africa, you know, when we lived there. We had a church in, I don't know if I've ever mentioned that we had a church in Zimbabwe. We had churches here. It's a whole thing. And I've been to the blackety of the blackest and the whitest of the whitest. I've been with ones with the cool. I've been in the 7 p.m. service at Hillsong where we're all dancing, and this is the young people service, and we all go get a cheeky Nando's afterwards at Tottenham Court Roads in London. I've been to the quiet ones with all the people. I've been to the Church of England churches where you come in, and if you're helping the ladies, they offer you a cup of tea, and it's cold and it's Catholic. And as you guys know, I have experience, okay? I'm saying this because people love to come up against me, and I'm like, respectfully, I probably have more experience than you do. The probability is that I have more experience within these spaces than you do. Just saying, because people love to just dismantle what I'm saying, even though I'm trying to help, which we're going to get into that because she talks about this. So I've gone into the church. I'm there, and I noticed some weird things immediately. There was this leader, and like, to summarize my part, because I don't want to focus on the part of what I experienced, the things I thought were weird were when I started to talk to them. Obviously they do the classic, we're trying to recruit you, come, because I'm a young person. I'm baby faced now. I've told you I'm going to be 29 in 5 months time. I'm going to be 30 next year. I get ID'd in this country buying an energy drink, which you got to be 16 for. And I hope that never changes. Okay. Anyway, so I'm there. They're all obviously trying to recruit me, and obviously me, you know, who looks just aloof and dumb. So everybody thinks I'm easy to take advantage of. Little does everybody know that I know a lot. So I'm involved in all of this, and the girls were there telling me pridefully, right? So this is some of the things that stuck out to me. First of all, they had 4 services where we're going to get into the service structure with her. The thing that was the biggest red flag for me was that they had this like separation of like the men, all the boys, like the young guys were all like on one side and the girls would be on the other side. And like all the guys were all going to become pastors, like just by default. And all the girls were all preparing to become pastors' wives. It was so weird, right? It was so freaking weird. Because I was like, because in my head at the time, right? This is a long time ago, guys. This is like, I was probably like, this is probably like what? This is far before I had this channel, like years before I had this channel. So I'm thinking this doesn't make any sense. And again, this girl who runs this thing, and bearing in mind, Rachel, who runs this charity, she's been saying, and she said many times that one of the biggest things that they do, one of the biggest tools that they use is they use the fact that you, what did she say? So I got distracted. I just saw something. Hold on. Is that they discourage critical thinking, which is ironic because I say this to you guys about school. Why do people struggle with maths and science? Because I believe the school system tries to destroy critical thinking on purpose. They punish kids who think critically, are always considered as badly behaved. And again, I find that ironic that it was the hyper, extremists that came out from the movement of Martin Luther with the church. They, right, all these people, they went around the world sharing the information about how to do education that's created the education system as it exists in the greater world at large. Now, other places have, adapted things, but they made the effort that we're going to go and take our beliefs and our education system all over the world. So it's just funny how these things work out. And it's why I'm so dedicated to critical thinking. And I always say you should never be expected to look at God as just like, oh, I'm just going to blindly trust. No, God gave us a brain for a reason to use it, because he knows that if we actually use our critical thinking, it's going to lead back to him. Because he doesn't have anything to hide, and he doesn't need to prove himself, because you just have to think logically. But anyway, let's not go down that road. So that was the first red flag. I was like, this is a bit weird. And then I went to one of their youth services. I don't remember in detail what they were talking about, but they again seemed, and it's one of those where I was like, they talk a lot, and these guys do this as well. They talk a lot about, as they do in all the churches, that all the obsession is all over sexual things. And this is why I say it's definitely a deviant, broken man at the top always. Right? Because it's like, why are you so concerned? Because that's what they were talking about in the youth group about, modesty and like purity. And it's like, you take all these good things. It's literally what Rachel was saying. You take these good things, good and godly things. Like, it's good to respect yourself. It's good to, protect your inner spirit, because your body is a temple, as in like demons want to exist in there the same way that the Spirit of God also wants to exist in there. Right? but they gets taken advantage of. So let's get into her story anyways. All I'll say is I didn't see much. They were really trying to recruit me. Like they were working really hard to try and get me to like come to everything. They were like, oh, we'd love to have you, love to have you. But at this point I was like, like, because my discernment was off. Like from the moment the pastor stepped out on stage, I was like, It was the same way I felt when I was in Hillsong when Brian Houston stepped on stage, and I was like, And it was the same feeling I used to have growing up watching TD Jakes. I was like, There's so many people throughout my life. I was just like, but I never spoke about it and I never said anything because like everybody else seemed to be going along with it. And this is the thing that I'm realizing. This is why I'm having the happiest January I've had in years, because I'm realizing, I was just the one who wasn't deceived and I was being punished for it. So anyway, let's get more into her story. So she was there from when she was 13 until she was 21. And at 15, she was promoted and expected to do exorcisms. So there's all this, which included hair pulling and stuff. And pretty much what she said is she was just a normal teenage girl. She wasn't like out here behaving promiscuously, but they convinced her that, you're dealing with a spirit of promiscuity. And they brainwashed her so well, because she talks about the brainwashing, and she did a whole campaign, I think it was in 2013, called Stop Brainwashing the Mandem, which I love that. Because one of the things that she pointed out, which I think is very important to say, and again goes back to what I say to you guys, these leaders, and a lot of what the devil is doing, he always wants us to think that the problem isn't the problem that we actually have. And so she said a lot of these people are in these cults, and she was even talking about how it's only now recently, in fact, her charity has had to do the research because no one cares and there's no funding. So there's basically no data in this country for any cult. Although from her experience, having worked, because she doesn't just do, like in her job, she doesn't just support people, she helps them advocate with the police, start their police investigations, where they can get legal help, where they can get counseling and therapy. Not only that, she's providing training for the social workers, the home office, doctors, etc., and the police, so that they can spot these things in the young people. And she talked about how, and this is a key point here, how coercion, right? Let me make sure I get my So under the Serious Crime Act of 2015, coercive control is illegal, but only for domestic relationships, right? So she's brought up a lot of really important points. So what she was saying by that is pretty much if it's outside of domestic relationships, i.e. it's not like family or say like a partner, it's not anybody can get away with coercive control, which again, I've told you guys this. It's so funny because I literally referenced in my previous video how we're always having to create new laws. We're always behind. We never know enough. And that's why I believe that we have to trust God. That's why it's stupid to go by our own wisdom. Nevertheless, so she says this is how they use it, and it's the same tool that they use with these county lines things, which if you want to know what the county lines thing is, it's kind of like the same thing, like, when you have gangs and then they rep their postcode, basically. That's what we call it here. So people be like, they'll say that like these like gangs or whatever, they'll use their postcode as like their like identity of like, I'm from, I don't know, RM2, you know what I mean? I'm from wherever you're from. Obviously in London, it's all north, east, south, west. So like my postcode in North London would be N whatever, or South London would be S whatever, South East SE. You get the gist, right? So they call this county lines, like this whole concept of like these postcode wars essentially. And it's it's bigger than that. And what people don't seem to realize, this is why I'm talking about a lot of this stuff, is that this is the same tactics they use to recruit the young boys. People are like, why are these young boys, why are they getting involved in gangs? And they are being coerced. These gangs go outside schools and stuff. This is why I don't want to have kids. This is why I don't trust the education. This is why I don't want to send my kids to no school. They find young boys, young age, like 14, whatever. Same thing that everybody's doing. Everybody's going to the kids and taking advantage, right? And then they start telling them like, can you just take this thing to this guy? Can you just take this thing to this guy, right? And if the kid doesn't want to do it, they're going to beat him up, they're going to hurt him, whatever. That's how these gangs do it. Then eventually you get into it. And then once you get into it and you get above, you now get the enjoyment out of getting to kind of do that to somebody else. Another guy who was talking about a completely different situation he was talking about the Hebrew Israelites, and he was talking about how, a lot of the things with the Hebrew Israelites mirrors, it's funny. We talked about the Hebrew Israelites, right? When I say the Hebrew Israelites, I'm not talking about Hebrew Israelites. I'm talking about the religion of Hebrew Israelites, right? The people in America, particularly the African Americans, but they're also here, the African Americans who believe, oh my gosh, we went through slavery and we were tortured because Jesus is black, and as a black man, this is what happened. This is our reality. We must be the chosen ones. We are the chosen Hebrew Israelites. You guys have seen those guys have given me a bunch of backlash as well. I told you the spirit of religion is a very violent one, right? Which we're going to come to that as well in a minute. So it's the same thing we saw with what was I about to say about the Hebrew Israelites? Yeah, the guy who made a video, he was talking about like when you're in a frat or like whatever, similar to even when I did my cheerleading initiations, which I never thought about it like this. He was saying that, you know, that you kind of, everybody, no one really talks about what goes down, but we all know what goes down if you've ever been in those kind of scenarios. There's always like the newbies have to have these initiations. I had initiations. They always like humiliate you. So I'll tell you guys what my cheerleading initiations were. They weren't as bad as these things. I can't believe I'm about to tell you about this. Basically, what we had to do is we had to, it wasn't that bad, like in comparison to what other people are doing, like what we're seeing here, right? It's always this thing of, well, we went through it, so we're going to do this to you once we get the power. So like we had to all make we had to make a dress out of bin bags, right? But then little did we know that progressively throughout the night, and then we all went to this event, and it was also with the rugby guys, and the rugby guys all dressed up as women, okay? It was really weird, okay? This is what I was doing at 18. This is what I'm saying. This is what I was doing. This is why 18 is the year where I'm like, I was the dumbest dumb of all time, and who the hell and how the hell was I left unsupervised in the city? And I thought this was all funny at the time because I didn't know what I was getting myself into at all. And I didn't even sign up for cheerleading. In fact, I was recruited because of a situation. Me and I helped out. I happened to help out the cheerleading captain without knowing she was a cheerleading captain. She's like, listen, you're on the team. Just, you don't even have to like try out. You're on the team. I wasn't going to try out for cheerleading, but anyway. So so in our initiations, we put on these dresses. Little did we know they were going to like tear our dresses like throughout the night, right? So we're in a public space, we're at the uni bar, right? And you've got all the cheerleaders, the initiations, we're all dressed up in our dresses made of bin bags, and you've got all the rugby guys are there and they're all dressed up as women. It was heinous, right? And by the end of the night, we were all essentially naked. Can I just say that? Can I just say, we were all essentially naked by the end of this. So, and then obviously they're doing that because they all did it because of the initiations they did. And this is the same thing that the guy who was talking about the Hebrew Israelites was talking about the initiations and what people do at the lower levels, which is the same thing I'm talking about here, that when people get power, because what she was saying is that, you know, it's this taking advantage of, you know, things. So it's all a bit crazy, right? Because it's also happening in SPAC, right? A lot of the leaders, right, who were what used to be the victims. So going back to what I was saying about county lines, they used to be the victims of the gang crime. They are the ones who get made pastors in places like SPAC Nation, right? And then because now they're pastors, now they get to dominate. So there's all these videos going around from SPAC Nation of them beating up young boys. Because again, it's like I've said to you guys, the same thing I was saying about Mormonism, the same thing I've been saying all these religions, is it's all about dominance. It's not about anything else other than broken, deviant men at the top that the devil creates. And this is what I'm saying, this is how Jezebel works. This is how, and it's ironic because again, I told you guys, she was saying, oh, when you're in a cult, they always tell you anybody that's speaking against you, like they're working for the devil. You guys saw when I did that video about the Hebrew Israelites, a guy literally shared it to his channel and referred to me as a Jezebel demon. Guys, I can't make this stuff up if I tried, right? So she mentions, a lot of really important points around these types of things. So again, the county lines, she's like, it's all the same because coercive control is allowed. It's only illegal if it's domestic in this country. So there we go to wet the palate for the video. How about that for you guys, right? So, and she was even saying the cults can defend themselves because they're not breaking any laws. There was something I really wanted to highlight that she said that was really important. But yeah, so that was kind of her story, how she got in. And they controlled everything, like what they were allowed to wear, their underwear that they were allowed to wear. Again, mirroring Mormonism, the underwear that they're allowed to wear, right? The nail color, who does that mirror? Diddy always had all of his women with white fingernails all the time. This is some of the Can you guys see that these things, none of it is about race, is about gender, it's all about the devil finding your weakness, your trauma, and exploiting it, right? Because one of the things she said that was so fascinating is that all these black folks, and I get it, because this is where I say we live in delusion. We live in Delulu land. A lot of them were saying, well, there's no cults here. Like, this is what I'm saying, the pride of Britain. They call this the pride of Britain here. There's the pride of Britain. You have the pride of Britain, right? There's too much pride here. Oh, the pride is there. And it is thick in the clouds. It is thick in the air. And I think that's why I feel so uncomfortable, because I'm so used to so many people just like, oh, we're going to laugh at, look at those crazy gunslinging Americans over there always fighting for freedom, rebellious, like idiots. Like, can you guys even name like 3 countries in the world? Like, look at the state of you, like, could never be us. Like, oh, look at you uncivilized over there in Africa and in Asia. Like, this is why we had to come and civilize you. We had to come and civilize you. Like, look at you. That's how they behave, right? Well, that's trickled down to those of us who have come here, because in the Black community, it's all been oh, we don't have cults here. That's like a white people thing. That's what these people believe. As she was saying, that they're like, oh, the cults, oh, that's a white people thing. Can you guys see how it's all just divisive? Like, it's all divisive. It's all divisive. I think, as I've said, I've had such a blessing of being in so many countries, because I don't really find a racism, because I have had good and bad experiences with all people, and I've always been surrounded with a mixture of races, ideas, thoughts, opinions, etc. And it's not hard for me. I've never been somebody who wants to only hear my own opinion and only be around people that think exactly like me. I've always wanted to have a vast array of people in my life, because I love to learn about, this is why I love cooking. I love culture, because I get to learn so much about people's cultures by investing, like, and this is why, that's where all my money goes. It's really buying ingredients, not even buying food, buying ingredients. Like, oh, I've got to get that exact, like, if I want to cook Korean food, I'm going to get that exact soy sauce. I got to get that exact seasoning. I got to get that exact, vegetable I've never heard of, because there's all the culture and the knowledge behind it. And you get to learn the history of people. So this is what I'm saying. It's all this, everything else is a distraction from the real problem. The real problem is that the enemy is using our lack of healing and deliverance against us, right? So she now at 15 has been promoted to doing these exorcisms. She even goes out of her way to say, her testimony is that she's been freed of this spirit of promiscuity, even though she was never promiscuous, but she was coerced. She was convinced, right? They convinced her. Right? Similar to how, these people were trying to convince Victoria, oh, you're a witch, you're a witch, you're a witch. Mm-hmm. So they also had the same as everybody else, the classic. There's the allowed music. So they had their own gospel. They couldn't listen to any gospel, only UCKG approved, only books that are UCKG approved. At 19, she got married after 3 months, because they said to them after 3 months, they all have to make a decision whether they want to get married or not to the person they're allocated to, because God forbid, if it goes past 3 months, they're going to fall into sin. And this is the funniest thing. Like, it's always this obsession with all these kids and these young people and everyone falling into sin. But it's the leaders this is why that's all the reason why they're always talking about it is because they're the ones struggling with those demons. This is what I'm saying, that Jezebel is she's just the orchestrator. She's like, come on here, spirit of lust, spirit of pride, spirit of religion. You guys come through. Let's come through to this leader. We're going to enslave him to his flesh. And we're going to make sure that he has too much pride to do the work, right? And then we're going to get him to do it under the name of religion, right? And then we're going to use that to deceive the people, right? To exploit the children and to deceive the people. That's what she's doing over there, Jezebel. Although I'm the one being called Jezebel, although I'm the one who's always being critiqued by everyone, although I'm the one who's grown up always never doing good enough in the church and whatever, when I was doing my best, whatever. But Jezebel and Jezebel's little slaves, right? These leaders, we're fine with that. And she even said, she was like, she said the number one sign you can tell somebody's in a cult is they get very highly defensive of their leader. And it's giving the spirit of religion. Like I was saying, the spirit of religion is violent. Because if you have the knowledge and then you remove that spirit of religion and you find relationship with God, that is the thing that the devil doesn't want. He wants you to look at your leader as a God, because then you're never going to get to God. We talked about this in this entire series earlier. I did a whole breakdown in the series. It's all linked in the description box below in the first link. You've got the whole thing. There's so many videos in there now, and you can go from the beginning, the very first video, as to why we're even doing any of this. And I explained to you guys that literally this was the devil's plan to take the glory away from God, right? And to prevent us from getting into his presence. So this is what she was talking about. So she decides to get married after 3 months. They're now divorced. It's been 10 years, like I said. And she, again, the classic, she said they create strange doctrines. They abuse scriptures, which is, again, something that's been done all over the show. What did the Roman Catholic Church do? Similar to something that happens in Islam, right? In the Roman Catholic Church, they read the Bible only in Latin. I even knew a girl when I was growing up in school. She was in a church like that, where the priest would read the Bible. No one else got to read the Bible. Only the priest can read the Bible, and he has to read it in Latin, which is, again, for me, the red flag with that alone is that the Bible's written in like Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. So why are you reading it in Latin? It's just another way to say, oh, no. God told me it's okay to abuse children. No. God told me there's purgatory. You just don't know it because it's in Latin. It reminds me, I was having this conversation with my friend, he's Muslim, right? About that he doesn't come from a country that speaks Arabic, right? So I was like, so is the Quran supposed to be read in Arabic, right? He's like, yeah, and I know that anyway, because working in teaching, whenever I work with these communities that are Muslim, the parents break their backs, right, for their immigrant children to pay for them to have extra lessons to learn Arabic so they can read the Quran in Arabic, right? So again, it's this whole, if you don't read it in the language and they want to dedicate, it's just so fascinating how it's the same story everywhere. So anyways, it's the classic questioning authority equals questioning God equals losing salvation. We've been here, done that. I won't get too much into it. I've actually covered quite a lot. But she pointed out something, how, the pastors a lot, because remember, she's experienced this with a lot of people now. So now she's been out of it for 10 years. She's been helping people. And she said herself that the pastors will gaslight people. And it's the trick of the devil always is to make you think you're the only one going through it. That's one of the main reasons I started my channel. That's why I know when people misunderstanding my intentions of being here, that they don't get it. I know that when I look on social media, when I'm out on social media and I'm seeing things, I feel it. I can feel it like in the spirit. All the silent people who have been through the things I have, knowing they don't have a voice. Because she even said the reason why they do these specific things, like helping with legal, all this stuff, is because these people, they're scared to take on these big companies and stuff. They're scared to do it because they don't have the legal backing, and the leaders do. This is something people always say, if you're going through this, how come you didn't speak up? Who speak up against who? You're literally telling people to go up against Goliath. And you wonder why. It's like when people wonder, why would you not just leave the industry? Because they're going up. What do you mean you want them to go up against Goliath? It's the most brain dead thing. And this is why I thank God for all the trauma I've been through in my life, so I can have the empathy and the understanding that people like this need, not be brain dead like everybody else. So yeah, so that's what they're doing. She's doing lots of really, really good work. I hope I remember to actually put this in. There's so much more to talk about, in fairness. Actually, there really isn't. I've said enough. You get the gist. It's the same story, same thing. The higher you go, let me tell you this and then we'll wrap it up. So what she said, this is how she describes her week. In a week, right? So they abuse the money. It's the same old story. Like I said, it's just ways for these broken, deviant men to exploit the children and deceive the adults for the sake of money, power, and fame, the devil's temptation trio. And the best way to do that is under religion, because ain't nobody want to talk about God, talk against God and the godly, right? We naturally want to believe that godly people would be good. That's why the Bible says the devil comes disguised as an angel of light. This ex-witch Angelina, I keep watching, I think that's her name. She keeps saying that. She's like, we know those scriptures. How comes we don't realize that that's probably what's happening? Why do we then still go and trust in the angels of looking at so much angels of light all the time? You know what I mean? And, and she said, when she said it, and I'm going to keep saying it, people are being deceived, don't realize they are. So her story was quite sad. She was talked about how at 13, they were telling her she needs to tithe her pocket money, right? Because she said they kept using the book of Malachi, talking about tithing, but tithing, that 10% was just the base. Right. So they would tell her, like, at 13, if she didn't tithe even at that age, that she won't be able to pass her GCSEs. She won't be able to continue her relationship with God. If she leaves the church, she could get hit by a bus. So to the extent that she would get £5 of money for her school. Well, we call them school dinners here, which is kind of odd now that I think about it. But, for her lunch money, I have to translate for all the peeps. Right. And she would give 50p. This is what I'm saying. This is horrific abuse of children. And they had 4 services, right? So I noticed this when I was there, because I was kind of looking at the service titles like, this is a bit odd. Listen to this, right? Monday, pray for studies. Wednesday, they do youth group and Bible studies. So on Monday, you pray for your studies, like your school studies. Thursday, you pray for your family. Friday, you do deliverance. Saturday, she would get there at 7 a.m. to clean and stamp newspapers and leave at 9 p.m. Right, this is a teenager. And Sunday, they would go to all the services, 7 a.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m., and then the 1 p.m. youth service, and leave church at 9 p.m. This was their life. This was their entire life. And here's what gets worse. All those Monday to Friday services, you best believe they had to give an offering. And despite the church making 15 million a year, they were the ones buying the newspapers. They were the ones buying the oils. They were the ones said that they had to go and sell. They were doing all this stuff themselves. Guys, I don't need to say too much more. I'm not going to keep harping on for no good reason. There's other topics and specific things I will bring up as time goes on. I mean, they were even, people were being reprimanded in a lot of these circles in a lot of these churches for going to even to BLM, Black Lives Matter protests. Can you imagine? This is what it happens. So yeah. And she said actually we should finish on this, something interesting that she said. She said that she doesn't believe UCKG is not really sexually, there's not really a lot of sexual abuse that comes out. And she believes, so this is somebody else saying it. I've said it before I knew about this story. Somebody else saying it. She says she believes that the abuse is always in relation to the insecurities and the issues and the demons. She didn't say demons, I'm adding demons, of the leader. So with somebody like her, these guys, they're more concerned with making money, right? The kids pay for the young people paying for everything. The young people are tithing. They're buying the stuff that they sell. They're doing all the work for these people to make money, right? In other churches, they're just finding ways to justify their deviant behavior, like Joseph Smith in Mormonism. And I'm using these two next to each other because you have two completely different sets of people that if those people were to be in the same room would make each other heavily uncomfortable, right? But they're actually in the same exact situation, but it's just repackaged. And that's what I'm trying to get you guys to take away from all of this, that like the devil just does the same. This is why I say every kingdom, like all religion is evil religion, because it's not about God. Because even she said, I watched the interview she did with Bouncer, they talked for an hour. She's like, we've not even talked about God. How much have we talked about actually God here? And that's always my thing. There's always all these extra doctrines, which we're going to come to the 7 sacraments and Catholicism and all of that. I kind of feel like Catholicism is going to end up being the grand finale of this whole series. But anyway, and all this, they add all these extra doctrines. It becomes nothing to do with God. And then you're like, you're saying you're believing in God, but God's not in the room. He's not even in the conversation. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up here because we've got so much to cover. And if there's anything else from here that I need to say, I'll just come back. Pray for me, guys, because listen, do you think that the devil's happy for me to be speaking up about this? Listen, I can handle, what I need to handle because I got the whole of the kingdom of God on my team, and I got the Lord and his entire army, backing me. But I would really appreciate if you guys do pray for me, because it's the ghetto. I'd be showing up here and I might be high energy and whatever, but I am going through it. On the other side, I'm fighting for my life, to get through this series. This is why you guys see me just rolling out at random times, making videos, looking disheveled, because I'm just fighting for my life. But there's one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the videos, because ain't no way, I ain't taking L's. I don't care how hard they're coming at me, and I don't care what the devil thinks he's doing. I'm coming out, and I'm coming out swinging no matter what. So please pray for me, you guys. I'm doing my very, very best. But yeah, so that's the story of UCKG, or at least a bit of a summary, and my involvement and kind of some of the things they're involved with. And like I said, they were there when they could have saved that girl, Victoria, when she was 8. And they didn't. They turned a blind eye, and probably because it's the same exact things that they were doing. And now I'm even finding out that Pastor Toby from SPAC Nation has allegations that he was also doing things with boys anyway, behind the scenes. And that might be why his previous wife divorced him, because we know that, at least we suspect, allegedly, that his new wife is with is just because he's supposedly getting deported. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane? And like I said, this is why when we make things about race, we make things about whose religion, it's stupid. That's the devil loves it. Like with Adam and Eve. He came in with a deceit. They both needed to take accountability and realize they together were not the problem. The problem was the serpent. But instead, the woman you gave me, the woman, the snake, now they're odds against each other. Look at the state of men and women today. Look at the state of households today. Look at how the divorce rate. Are you kidding me? Look at how we're against each other because of race, because of political views, because of everything. That's why I've given all that up. Because I'm not going to participate with the rest of the world in focusing on the wrong things. I'm not going to participate in getting distracted by the wrong divisions. I've met lovely people of every culture, and I've also met horrible people of every culture. Guess what? You know what? I like to call myself an equal opportunity racist. I'll be racist to everybody because I've seen the best and the worst of everyone. I have just as many issues with men as I do women. I have just as many issues with the left wing as the right wing. You know what I'm saying? It's all a facade. It's all a distraction. Anyways, you guys, I'm going to leave that there because if life's a game, let's play to win. And as I said, everything's linked in the description box below. Check it out. Go and check it out. We've got so much we've covered. We've started in Genesis. We've done Enoch. We've done Satan. I can't remember what we did, honestly. We've done so much. Go back through it. We're doing science, history, Bible. It's all going to be in here. I don't know when this series is going to end. I pray to the Lord it's not going to be like the end of this year. 2026. Anyways, you guys, I love you so much, and I really do. This is why I'm saying this stuff, because I want to break people out of this, right? Because as she said, these things, they don't happen overnight. You're love bombed. They get you in, and they get you. The same with Scientology. They find out what's your weakness, what's your thing, and they use that as a coercion tactic. And that's why I say It's protective to do the healing and the deliverance. It's protective to humble yourself with the Lord and deal with your demons, because otherwise, do you not think that the devil's not sent those demons so that he can come back and use those demons for himself? That's the whole freaking point. Anyways, if life's a game, let's play to win. Check out the whole entire series. Don't know where we're going next. Never know with the Lord. I'm just a passenger princess, and I'm just here for the ride, and I'm enjoying it. But it is hell. So please pray for me, guys. Pray for me. But also, we will fight back. We'll keep fighting. We're not stepping down. I hate losing. I'm not losing. I'm not taking the L. Fight. The devil can fight me all he wants behind the scenes. And in this world, I'm going to keep going. Because that's what winners do. If life's game is played to win, God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. And see you in my next one.